Chosen ones, listen carefully and do not rush past this moment. This is not a random video. This is not background noise filling silence in your day. This is a message from God, delivered to you in exact divine alignment. You did not arrive here by accident. You were drawn. You were guided. Something within you recognized this moment before your mind tried to question it. That pause you felt, that subtle pull, that quiet knowing in your chest is not imagination. It is confirmation. You are not losing clarity. You are entering spiritual awakening. This message is for the chosen one who has felt pressure without explanation, responsibility without recognition, and preparation without reward. You have sensed that something massive is shifting in the world. Systems are shaking. Old structures are cracking. What once felt permanent is becoming unstable. This is not chaos. This is transition. This is the clearing before divine reordering. While many are distracted by fear, the chosen ones are being positioned. The war you feel is real. It is not fought with weapons but with alignment, obedience, and awareness. Hear this clearly. Wealth is not moving randomly. Provision is not being assigned blindly. A historic wealth transfer is unfolding, and it is reaching households, not just institutions. This transfer is not about greed or ego. It is about responsibility. It is about placing resources into hands that can carry light without corruption. You are here because your spirit can handle what your past could not. God does not fund confusion. God funds clarity. If you feel this truth settling in your spirit, comment 777 now, not as superstition, not for luck, but as a declaration that you are aligned, awake, and willing. Numbers do not create power. Awareness does. And awareness is what is being activated right now. This is a spiritual awakening moment, not a motivational speech. Awakening does not always feel exciting. Sometimes it feels sobering. Sometimes it feels quiet. Sometimes it feels heavy, because you finally understand the weight of your divine calling. You were never meant to blend in. You were never meant to follow broken systems. You were trained through isolation, delay, and resistance, so you could recognize truth without external validation. Wealth does not always announce itself through numbers first. It speaks through physical signs, through shifts in household provision, through peace where anxiety once lived, through order replacing chaos. Many chosen ones overlook these confirmations because they expect fireworks instead of alignment. But God moves with precision, not noise. When provision begins to stabilize, when timing starts working with you instead of against you, when survival mode loosens its grip, that is not coincidence. That is confirmation. This message is here to sharpen your sight, to help you recognize what is already happening around you. Financial manifestation is not magic. It is alignment meeting opportunity. And alignment begins internally before it ever shows up externally. The chosen one learns to see before they receive. That is why awareness accelerates manifestation. You may have felt like you were fighting unseen battles, carrying responsibilities others could not see. That is because your light threatens systems built on imbalance. The war is not against you. It is around you, and you were not left unprotected. You were prepared. Your delays were not punishments. They were reinforcements. This is your reminder. You are not imagining the shift. You are not making this up. You were called. You are still called. Your divine calling did not expire because of exhaustion, doubt, or waiting. If anything, it matured. God does not rush preparation because the assignment is heavy. What is coming requires steadiness, not speed. As this message continues, you will begin to recognize signs that were already present. Household provision aligning, pressure lifting, peace replacing urgency. These are not small things. These are early confirmations that the transfer has already reached your space. If this touched your soul, comment 111. Because you know it now, you were called. Physical sign 1. Sudden shifts in household flow and provision. Chosen one, return to the stillness you felt when this message first reached you. That feeling was not imagination. It was recognition. This is still a message from God, and the truth is unfolding layer by layer because your spirit can now hold it. The first physical sign that the wealth transfer has reached your household does not arrive with noise or celebration. It arrives with quiet stabilization. It shows up as pressure easing where pressure used to dominate. It reveals itself in the flow of provision, changing its rhythm without explanation. You may have noticed that the constant emergencies have slowed down. The sudden expenses that once appeared without warning no longer hit with the same intensity. Bills still exist, responsibilities are still present, but panic has begun to lose its grip. Timing starts aligning in ways that feel almost unnoticed at first. Money arrives when it needs to. Resources stretch further than logic predicts. Support appears before collapse instead of after damage. This is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is divine orchestration adjusting your household flow. The chosen one often expects abundance to arrive as a dramatic increase, but God often begins by removing the leaks. Before overflow, there must be stability. Before expansion, there must be containment. This is why the first sign is not excess, but order. Survival mode quietly steps back. You breathe without realizing you were holding your breath for years. Provision becomes consistent instead of chaotic. That consistency is the signal. This is God's message telling you that you are no longer in training for survival. You are being positioned for stewardship. Survival requires scrambling. Stewardship requires steadiness. When provision begins to show up just in time instead of just too late, that is alignment. When you no longer feel chased by deadlines, that is alignment. When stress decreases even before income increases, that is alignment. Spiritual law operates beneath what the eye can see. Household provision increases when internal resistance fades. Resistance is not doubt. Resistance is fear rooted in past lack. When the chosen one releases the belief that everything must be fought for, the flow changes. God does not force provision into clenched hands. Flow follows trust. This sign appears quietly because it is testing awareness. Many overlook it because it does not match their expectations. But God often whispers before he shouts. If you can recognize stability as a blessing, you can handle expansion without corruption. This is why the shift begins here. You were called because your light is necessary in a world addicted to imbalance. The war is real. It is a war over resources, influence, and stewardship. And you were not placed on the battlefield without preparation. Your household is being fortified first. Peace is becoming the new foundation. This is not imagination. This is confirmation. If this touched your soul, comment 111. Because you know it now. You were called. Physical sign 2. Changes in the home environment and material conditions. Chosen one, return again to the truth that anchored you at the beginning. This is still a message from God. Nothing you are noticing is accidental, and nothing you are feeling is imagined. When the spirit shifts within you, the physical world responds around you. This is not symbolic language. This is spiritual law made visible. The second physical sign that the wealth transfer has reached your household shows itself through your environment. The space you live in begins to change because you have changed. You may have noticed repairs becoming possible without strain. Something that stayed broken for months or years suddenly gets fixed with ease. An appliance lasts longer than expected. A replacement appears at the right time without debt or desperation. Upgrades happen without forcing. Improvements unfold without panic. These moments seem small until you recognize the pattern. The struggle that once accompanied every material need is no longer present. That absence is the signal. The chosen one often underestimates how deeply identity affects environment. During spiritual awakening, your internal posture shifts from survival to stewardship. When that happens, the physical world reorganizes to match the new frequency. Homes respond to identity. Spaces reflect readiness. Chaos cannot remain where alignment has taken root. Order begins to return, not because you forced it, but because resistance has left. Clutter begins to move out. Space opens where there was once congestion. You may feel a natural desire to clean, simplify, or reorganize without external pressure. This is not random motivation. This is capacity being created. Wealth requires room. Abundance cannot pour into a container filled with fear, excess, or disorder. God prepares the container before He pours the provision. That is mercy, not delay. You may notice that things break less often. When they do, solutions come faster. Items last longer. Waste decreases. Resources stretch further. These are not coincidences. These are wealth transfer signs at the material level. When provision is aligned, loss reduces. Leakage slows. Efficiency increases without obsession. This is the home reflecting inner alignment. The message from God in this season is subtle but firm. You are being trusted with more, so your environment is being trained to hold more. This is part of your divine calling. Stewardship begins at home before it ever expands outward. God does not expand influence in unstable spaces. He stabilizes the ground first. The war you feel is real. It is not only spiritual but structural. Old systems taught scarcity, clutter, and constant repair. Your awakening challenges that pattern. Your light disrupts decay. That is why your space responds. The world resists change, but your home begins to cooperate. This is protection. This is preparation. You were called because your presence brings order where disorder once lived. That is not arrogance. That is assignment. When your environment begins to reflect peace, it is confirming that your inner world has crossed a threshold. This is not imagination. This is alignment made visible. As these changes occur, do not rush them. Do not force upgrades prematurely. Allow the process to unfold. God is teaching you to recognize provision without pressure. That recognition strengthens financial manifestation because it builds trust instead of urgency. Your home is speaking back to you. It is telling you that pathways are opening. It is confirming that abundance is approaching in a form you can sustain. This is still a message from God. You were called, your light is necessary, and the evidence is already around you. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now. You were called. Physical sign 3, the body and energy responding to financial alignment. Chosen one, come back to the truth that anchored you from the very first words. This is still a message from God. Nothing you are experiencing is imagined, exaggerated, or accidental. When provision begins to align spiritually, the body is always the first place it shows up. Before numbers change, before accounts reflect increase, before doors visibly open, your nervous system receives the signal. This is the third physical sign, and it is one of the most overlooked, yet one of the most accurate confirmations that the wealth transfer has reached you. You may have noticed that your anxiety around money is no longer as sharp as it once was. The fear that used to sit in your chest has softened. Thoughts that once spiraled late at night now slow down naturally. Sleep comes easier, deeper, more restorative. Your breathing becomes calmer without effort. These are not personality changes. These are alignment responses. The body only relaxes when it senses safety, and safety is the language of provision. The chosen one often misunderstands this phase because it does not match old survival conditioning. Survival taught you to stay alert, tense, and exhausted. Alignment teaches you to be present, grounded, and steady. When financial manifestation stabilizes spiritually, the body stops preparing for constant threat. That is why exhaustion begins to lift without external rest. The weight you carried was not physical, it was anticipatory fear, and that fear is no longer necessary. This is where spiritual awakening becomes physical. Your intuition sharpens, decisions feel clearer, you sense when to move and when to wait without panic. This is not luck. This is trust forming between you and the message from God. Obedience to divine calling creates coherence in the body. When you stop fighting the flow, your system stops bracing for impact. Understand this clearly. Wealth is incompatible with chronic fear. Fear creates leakage, sabotage, and instability. That is why God does not send provision into a body that cannot hold peace. Peace comes first. Calm comes first. Regulation comes first. This is protection, not delay. The body receives peace as proof that provision is already secured spiritually. You may still have responsibilities. You may still be in transition, but the internal urgency has decreased. You are no longer racing against invisible clocks. That shift is not psychological trickery. It is confirmation. The nervous system only releases when the future feels supported. The war you feel is real, but it is changing shape. You are no longer fighting for survival. You are learning to stand in authority. Your light is necessary, and light cannot operate through burnout. That is why rest begins before reward. That is why clarity precedes capital. This is still a message from God. You were called. Your body knows it even when your mind questions it. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now. You were called. Why these things appear before money shows up. Chosen one, return once more to the truth that has been steady from the beginning. This is a message from God. You are not imagining the sequence. You were called into awareness before you were called into overflow, and that order is intentional. God does nothing out of sequence. He does nothing to impress. He does everything to protect purpose. That is why the signs appear before the money shows up. The world teaches you to chase outcomes. God trains the chosen one to recognize alignment. This is the difference between desperation and authority. If visible wealth arrived before internal readiness, it would not bless you, it would expose you. Premature money destroys unprepared identity. It amplifies fear, ego, and confusion. That is why God never rushes provision. He stabilizes the vessel first. Spiritual awakening is not about getting more, it is about becoming steady enough to hold what was already assigned to you. The early signs are not rewards, they are confirmations. They are God's message saying, stay steady, stay grounded, stay obedient. When you can recognize peace as provision, you prove you can handle abundance without panic. Delay is not denial. Delay is positioning. The war you feel is real, but it is no longer against lack. It is against impatience. Urgency is the language of fear. Obedience is the language of trust. And trust accelerates the wealth transfer faster than effort ever could. You were called because your light must last, not flash. And lasting light is built slowly, deliberately, and with care. This is still a message from God. If this touched your soul, comment 111. Because you know it now, you were called. What to do once you recognize the wealth transfer sings. Chosen one, come back to the truth that has carried this entire message from the beginning. This is still a message from God. You are not imagining what you are seeing. You are not misreading the signs. You were called, and recognition itself is proof that your awareness has matured. Many experience alignment without understanding it. Few recognize it while it is happening. That is why instruction follows confirmation. Once you recognize the wealth transfer signs, your responsibility changes. Awareness activates momentum, but wisdom determines direction. The first response is not excitement, it is gratitude. Gratitude anchors what is arriving. Not loud gratitude, not performative gratitude, but quiet acknowledgement that God is already at work. Gratitude tells the spirit world that you see what others would overlook. It stabilizes the flow. It keeps you grounded while things are still unfolding. The chosen one does not rush to announce blessings that are still forming. They learn to carry them silently until they are established. Consistency is the second response. Alignment is maintained through steady behavior, not emotional spikes. When provision begins to stabilize, you do not change your posture, you keep your routines clean. You keep your commitments intact. You keep your values firm. This is how trust is built between you and your divine calling. Sudden changes in discipline signal instability. God expands what is consistent, not what is impulsive. Calm confidence follows, not arrogance. Not secrecy rooted in fear. Calm confidence means you no longer explain yourself unnecessarily. You do not chase validation. You do not seek permission to become who you already are. Your peace becomes your confirmation. Financial manifestation multiplies when peace is preserved because peace protects clarity. Confusion creates leaks. There is a warning here that must be heard. Do not announce prematurely. Do not force acceleration. Speaking too soon exposes what is still fragile. Forcing speed creates misalignment. The war you feel is not against lack anymore. It is against impatience and distraction. Many lose momentum because they rush to prove what God is still building. The chosen one learns restraint. Alignment is maintained through obedience, integrity, and restraint. Obedience means you listen even when instruction feels small. Integrity means you do the right thing even when no one is watching. Restraint means you say no to opportunities that are misaligned, even if they promise quick gain. This is stewardship training. God does not hand responsibility to those who cannot say no. Wise stewardship is inseparable from divine calling. What you are being prepared for goes beyond personal comfort. Resources are tools. Influence is responsibility. Your household is the first training ground. Protect your environment. Protect your energy. Protect your focus. Not everyone deserves access to your process. Not every conversation deserves your attention. Peace is not passive. It is guarded. Spiritual awakening sharpens discernment. You begin to sense when something drains you versus strengthens you. Follow that awareness. Wealth is attracted to clarity. When you protect your internal world, your external world responds. This is still a message from God. You are called because your light is necessary in a world that mishandles power. The war is real, but you are not unarmed. Recognition has activated momentum. Now stewardship sustains it. Stand steady. Stay grounded. Move wisely. If this touched your soul, comment 111 because you know it now. You were called. Activating your divine calling and fully embracing the wealth transfer signs. Chosen one, return once more to the truth that has held you from the beginning. This is still a message from God, and the certainty you feel is no accident. You are not imagining the shifts in your life, the subtle confirmations in your household, or the quiet changes within your body. You were called for this moment, and now the time has come to step fully into your divine calling. The wealth transfer that is arriving at your household is not simply material, it is spiritual, emotional, and energetic. It requires more than recognition, it requires activation. Many of the chosen ones pause at this stage. They see the signs, they sense the alignment, yet they hesitate to step fully into what God has prepared for them. They wait for external confirmation or the perfect timing they imagine is necessary. But the truth is that the signs themselves are confirmation. The universe has already shifted on your behalf. The resources, the timing, the connections, and the provision are already moving in your favor. Your task is to awaken fully to the reality that you are no longer waiting. You are called to act, to steward, and to embrace your role as a carrier of light and abundance. Activation begins in stillness. It begins with a recognition that your identity has changed. Your nervous system, your environment, and your household have already begun to reflect the alignment that you are stepping into. You may have noticed that your home feels lighter, that responsibilities feel more manageable, and that anxiety around provision has diminished. These are not coincidences. These are signals that the spiritual pathways for your financial manifestation are open. They are your invitation to awaken fully to your divine calling. The first step in activation is clarity. The chosen one must recognize that they are a steward, not merely a receiver. Divine calling is not about accumulation or personal gratification. It is about alignment, obedience, and the responsible management of what is entrusted to you. When you understand this, your energy changes. You move from survival thinking to strategic alignment. You stop reacting to external chaos and begin responding to divine timing. You start making decisions from a place of authority rather than fear. This is a profound shift, and it is the first tangible step toward embracing the wealth transfer fully. You may have been conditioned to measure progress by numbers, by sudden inflows, or by visible results. God's method is different. The chosen one is trained to measure alignment, consistency, and inner peace first. When these are in place, the material will follow. That is why the early signs, stabilization in household flow, shifts in your environment, and physical calm in your body appear before money or resources arrive in full force. They are tests of readiness. They are confirmations that you are prepared to hold, protect, and multiply what is being delivered. It is essential now to deepen your spiritual awareness. The chosen one must cultivate the ability to recognize subtle signs that indicate alignment and provision. This can be a quiet message from the universe, a timely word from someone in your circle, or an unexpected solution arriving just in time. These are not coincidences. Each signal is a confirmation of your divine calling and a reminder that your light is necessary. You must pay attention to these details, trust them, and act with obedience and discernment. The moment you begin to notice these signs consistently, your activation accelerates. Activation also requires courage. Many chosen ones hesitate because stepping fully into divine calling demands visibility, responsibility, and trust. It asks you to align your actions with spiritual law, even when the world does not understand. It asks you to maintain calm confidence in the face of uncertainty, to protect your energy, and to safeguard your household. The war you feel is real, but it is no longer a battle for survival. It is a test of your readiness to wield light and stewardship with integrity. Your courage is not the absence of fear, it is the conscious choice to act in alignment despite fear. Obedience is the next key component of activation. God's message comes with instruction, and the chosen one must follow it precisely. Obedience does not mean blind compliance. It means listening to your inner guidance, honoring your spiritual confirmations, and stepping into action when the time is right. When you obey, your internal world and external circumstances synchronize. Opportunities multiply, timing aligns, and provision flows without resistance. Obedience is the channel through which divine calling becomes tangible. It is the bridge between spiritual awakening and financial manifestation. Integrity is equally crucial. Activation is not about shortcuts, appearances, or temporary gains. The chosen one is entrusted with light, and light must remain uncorrupted. You must act in ways that honor your inner truth, your commitments, and the principles that sustain your alignment. This integrity ensures that the wealth transfer is secure and that your household becomes a container for blessing rather than chaos. Every decision you make, every boundary you uphold, strengthens your capacity to receive and multiply what has already been delivered. Restraint is a companion to integrity. In a world conditioned for instant gratification, the chosen one must cultivate the ability to say no to what is misaligned, distracting, or premature. The signs you are observing are not an excuse for haste or recklessness. They are confirmations that patience, discernment, and careful action will yield exponential results. Your restraint preserves peace, which is the fertile ground from which all financial manifestation grows. Now, the chosen one must learn to steward what is arriving. Stewardship is both practical and spiritual. Protect your environment, safeguard your energy, and focus on what aligns with your divine calling. Your household is the first domain of responsibility. Your mind, body, and spirit must be managed with care. Every act of stewardship strengthens your ability to receive larger blessings, ensures longevity of provision, and establishes authority over the resources entrusted to you. Stewardship is the proof that you are ready for expansion. Gratitude is the heartbeat of this activation. When you notice the subtle signs, pause and acknowledge them. Thank God for every easing of pressure, every timely solution, every moment of clarity and peace. Gratitude amplifies alignment because it signals recognition of divine orchestration. It teaches your spirit to trust the process, to value the unseen work, and to honor the provision that arrives in ways that may not yet be fully visible. Gratitude transforms awareness into momentum. The chosen one must also engage in deliberate reflection. Take time to observe patterns, record insights, and meditate on confirmations. Spiritual awakening deepens when awareness is conscious. The signs of wealth transfer are easier to recognize when your mind and spirit are attuned. Reflection aligns your internal map with external reality. It connects your daily actions with the larger movement of divine orchestration. This practice of awareness strengthens the connection between identity and provision, ensuring that financial manifestation is both sustainable and replicable. Activation is cumulative. Each acknowledgement, each act of obedience, each moment of calm confidence builds on the last. Momentum is created when alignment is consistent. The chosen one learns to step into flow rather than forcing outcomes. When you move in harmony with the signs, the energy of provision accelerates. The wealth transfer, which began quietly, now begins to manifest more visibly, not as luck or coincidence, but as proof that spiritual law and obedience have met. You must also recognize that activation is relational. Your interactions, connections, and communications carry spiritual weight. Align with people who recognize your calling, who support your stewardship, and who honor your integrity. Release relationships that drain energy or distract from purpose. The chosen one's environment, both physical and relational, must reflect readiness for abundance. The physical signs, emotional signs, and relational signs all converge to signal full activation. Faith is the final pillar. Activation requires unwavering belief in the unseen. You may not yet see the full outcome, but you must trust the signs, trust your inner guidance, and trust the timing of God's message. Faith does not eliminate responsibility. It empowers it. It allows the chosen one to act decisively, maintain calm, and protect the container while provision flows. Faith ensures that the transfer is not only received, but multiplied. Your divine calling is alive, and your activation is underway. You were trained, tested, and prepared for this season. Your household, your body, your mind, and your spirit are ready vessels. The signs that have appeared, the stabilizing of provision, the transformation of your environment, and the calm in your body are confirmations that the transfer is in motion. Recognition without action is incomplete. Action without alignment is dangerous. The chosen one balances both, moving with precision, patience, and purpose. This is still a message from God. You were called, and the evidence is already around you. Your light is necessary. The war is real, but your preparation has made you capable. You are not imagining this reality. You are awake. You are aligned. You are chosen. Every shift you notice, every signal you receive, every moment of inner peace is a marker that you are stepping fully into the wealth transfer. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now. You were called. Conclusion: this message confirms what you already felt. Chosen one, come back to the beginning, because the truth has not changed. This is a message from God. You are not imagining what you have been seeing, feeling, or sensing in your life. You were called into this moment on purpose. Nothing about your journey has been random, and nothing unfolding now is accidental. What you felt before this message found you was already confirmation. This message simply gave language to what your spirit already knew. The shifts you noticed were real. The changes in your household were real. The quiet easing of pressure, the unexpected alignment, the calm that arrived without explanation were not coincidences. They were signals. They were evidence that the wealth transfer has reached your household by divine design. Not because you chased it, not because you forced it, but because you were prepared for it. God does not misplace provision. He assigns it with precision. The chosen one is always awakened before they are rewarded. That is the pattern. Awareness precedes abundance. Identity precedes increase. Wealth follows who you become, not how hard you struggle. That is why your spiritual awakening had to happen first. You could not carry new resources with an old identity. You could not steward expansion with survival thinking. You had to become steady before you could become supported. Trust this truth. God's message is not confusing. It is clarifying. If fear has been leaving your body, if peace has been settling in your space, if order has been returning to your life, that is because provision is already secured at the spiritual level. What is secured in the spirit cannot be stolen in the physical. That is why there is no need to rush. There is no need to prove. There is no need to explain yourself. The war you sensed was real. It was never about money alone. It was about identity, stewardship, and light. Darkness does not fear poverty. It fears aligned people with resources and wisdom. That is why your preparation was intense. That is why your waiting was long. That is why your isolation was necessary. You were being shaped to carry light without being consumed by what you carry. Your divine calling is not fragile. It does not disappear because of doubt or fatigue. It matures through endurance. And now you stand at a threshold where obedience matters more than effort. Stay steady, stay grounded, stay aligned. Do not let urgency pull you back into old patterns. Calm confidence is your protection. Silence is your shield. Discernment is your advantage. You are prepared. Not perfect, but prepared. Not finished, but fortified. God does not send what you cannot sustain. What is unfolding now is not temporary, it is foundational. And what is built on alignment cannot be reversed. If you feel aligned with this message, comment 777 now, not as superstition, but as spiritual agreement. And if this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now. You were called.